Okay, welcome everyone. It's good to see everybody here. Today is Thursday, May 21st, and today we're going to talk about Google Sites. This week we've been kind of revisiting some of the topics we've done before, like Google Docs and Drive and forms we did yesterday and drawing and slides. But so today we're going to talk about Google Sites with kind of the idea that we're going to bring it all together. So all those different pieces you might have a slideshow, you might have a Google form, you might have a calendar, all these different pieces, and you bring it all together into a Google site. We've talked about before, and we've used before, Google Classroom is our way to kind of share our classroom with our students. And the way to think about that is that's kind of the private in-class version, meaning that it's like a digital version of your regular classroom where the kids that are in your class, they can be in Google Classroom. That's the same. Google Sites is the public face. And so that's the idea where mom and dad could go to a website to see what's going on or that kind of thing. We're using a lot of Google Slides right now in the district for Google Sites as a site basically for the younger grades, K4. And one of the reasons why we're doing that is, first graders, kindergartners, they're not going to sign in to a website really. So they just need something they can just see and view. But we'll look at both of those. But we'll talk about Google Sites as a way to kind of integrate some of the stuff you've already done for students and kind of pull that into a public website that you can share out as you need. So we'll start here. Let's present. All right, excellent. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to sites.google.com. And these are all in the show notes if you need to reference these. But so here is, if I go to sites.google.com, the first thing to notice is I'm in the RSU19 domain. That means I'm in with your school account, you're in the school domain by default. And that's fine. Again, unless you need to have some other reason. The other thing too is it will bring you to the old version of Sites, which is what we're looking at right now. This is the original version. And there is a new Google Sites version. And that's the one you're going to want. And the reason why, not only just because it's got more features and it's updated, but specifically when you create a website and you share it, whatever the viewer is looking at it with, if they're looking at it with a laptop or the tablet or their phone or whatever, it will adjust to fit to match that site for the viewer, for the user at the other end. So it's really, it's unless I can't imagine why you wouldn't use the new version at this point. So just so you know what that link is, sites.google.com/new will bring you to the new one, or you can just click on the new version on the left here. So here are a few sites that we have. I'm going to click this little plus here for a new blank site. It's a new blank Google site. Okay, so here it is, comes up, pretty boring. One of the drawbacks, kind of a pro and con of Google Sites, is it's very template driven. So it gives you a lot already done. So you can just kind of add your own text and your own content, but it's kind of hard to kind of break out of that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the look of our site. So this is what it comes out as default. Over on the right side here, you see the links, it says Insert, Pages, and Themes. So we'll start with Themes. So again, these are just cosmetic changes that don't affect the actual site itself, just with the looks of it. And they give you some templates to kind of play around with, and I can change some colors and the look of it. And we'll call this one, let's see, Tech PD. That's what we're doing today. And I can change some of the colors and so forth. If I want to get fancier with it here, I can change the actual font style. Again, they don't give you a lot of choices. One of the reasons why they do that, why doesn't they just give you a million choices like you would, say in a Word document or whatever? There's a very, technological reason. If you've ever been to a website and you hold the site and you can't read the words on it, let's say it's all blocks or squares, and you can't actually read the text, that means that you don't have the font, your computer doesn't have the font that they can read it. So by limiting it to these handful of styles, that means that pretty much anything can read that font. So any web, if it's a phone or a tablet or a laptop goes to see your site, it'll be on there. So here are a handful of different options. I like this one. This one's kind of cool. We'll stick with this one. Again, I can change the colors if I wanted to, whatever. Again, that's a personal preference here. Change the image. So if I want to update the image at the top, I can upload my own image. Again, it's going to tell you the exact dimensions, 200 by 800 as far as the pixels that you would need to put your own image in there. If you're not sure how to create an image that's exactly that size, what I would recommend doing is open up Google Slides, go to File, Page Setup, and you can adjust that to match exactly what you want for a header size. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I go to Google Drive here, go to New Slide. So this is the default one that it comes with. I'm going to get rid of these little pieces here. We'll close down themes here. So I need to adjust this. I'm going to change the background just so you can see a little bit better, I think. Not because you don't have to do this, but I think it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so if I want to adjust this to match the size I would need for my site, I can come up to File, go down to Page Setup. By default, it says widescreen. I'm going to change that to custom, and we want pixels. So this is going to be 800 by 200. Okay, you'll notice it's a little bit more, spread out a little here. But if I want to add something, if I want to add, Mr. Kelly's tech site or whatever it is, again, I can make this look like whatever I want to. And then from here, I would take this, I would file, download as an image, right here as an image file, and then I would come back to the site and I would upload that image right in here. And that way it would take that background over. If I did that, I probably would remove this text box as well, because that way it wouldn't overwrite it. It would just be by itself. Some other options here in the header type. Right now I've got large banner, which means it's a big image at the top, which is cool. I can change it just to title only, if I don't want words. I can change it to a even bigger banner, or to a cover, which is basically the entire page is just that one image. That's kind of more geared towards a mobile site. So if you know that they're going to be viewing it from your phone, maybe the first thing they see is like a big image. Again, you can adapt it any way you want, and they could scroll it up or down or move it around or whatever. I'm just going to keep it at banner for right now. I think that looks pretty good. All right. Right now, this is an untitled site, so we'll label it. I'll label it Mr. Kelly's site. Enter site name again if you want to have a title. So you might have it as your class. You can add a logo again if you need like a logo in the corner, like a little image out up here. Again, personal preference. I think this is fine for right now. This looks pretty good. All right, we went to themes to change this color scheme. And again, if tomorrow, if I wanted to change it to a different one, it wouldn't affect anything inside of it. It would just affect the look of it. So that's no big deal to do that. I'm going to come back here to insert. So this is where we're going to do most of the stuff. We're going to insert text or pictures or embed Google Forms or slides or whatever we want to do. This is where we would do it. So they do give you some layouts here. The layouts are just kind of like, is it 2 columns or a big picture with a column beside it and that kind of stuff. And you can adjust and move all this stuff around. I'll show you how you can kind of drag things around. So the first thing we're going to insert right here is a text box. So I'm going to insert a text box. Now you notice it came up right in the middle here. And I can put, welcome to my classroom site. All right, so I just put a little text in there. I'm going to center that. So this little icon, if I click away from it, it will go away. But if I click on it again, this will pop right back up. So I can click on this and center this. There's, again, another limitation against a pro and con where they give you some options. But they don't give you a million options. So I can make this a lot bigger if I want to. I can make it a little bit bigger. But these are the styles and the types that I have to choose from. I don't have, infinite number of choices here. And the reason why, again, is depending on what your user is viewing it on, this is adapted so they'll always be able to see it. It won't affect that. I can make some changes over here on the left side. I could delete it. I could copy it. I can also change what the color is behind it. So if I want to emphasize it, maybe it looks a little bit darker there. So that's kind of cool. The other thing too that's interesting here is I can add an image as a background as well. So if I knew exactly what I wanted there, I could put text with an image on top of it. This all looks pretty good. I don't think I'm going to make a link here. I'll show you that in a little bit, but you can make this be a clickable link as well. All right, so I've got a little text box. Right beside here, let's add an image right underneath this. So I could select an image, and these would search my either a Google image search, right? So just a general search, or my own Google Photos or Google Drive. So if I already have images that I've stored or uploaded, I can do that. I actually have an image I want to use that's on my desktop here. So I'm going to upload it. I'm going to go find it. I think I put it right here, the logo. All right, so here's my logo. Again, I can drag it around. If I do drag it, I don't know if you can see this in the view. It looks like you can, but these little lines here. So again, it doesn't let you drag it anywhere. It gives you kind of borders to kind of drag it to. And the reason why, let me take this text box here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to drag these two things beside each other. Okay, so there's my text box. Let me turn off this emphasis so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so here's my text. And the reason why these things are next to each other now is that, again, if I'm on my phone, if I'm looking at this website on a regular laptop that's, you know, wide enough, let's say it's 13 inches or 15 inches wide, no big deal. I can see the whole thing. But on a phone, things are going to kind of push into each other. If you've ever been to a website on a certain device and you see things kind of overlap, let's say a video overlaps some text, or a picture gets hidden behind something else and it's really hard to click on. That's what happens. That's kind of the old way of doing it. Things would kind of overlap each other and get stretched out or not look right. One of the benefits of new Google Sites is it makes it kind of puts in these slots, so it won't overlap something. What it will do is it will push it underneath it. So things will look a little bit maybe out of whack, but at least you can see everything. Something won't be hidden behind something else. So this looks pretty good. We had an image here. Again, these images, if I want to, I can do some cropping right in here if I wanted to. I can make this a link. So if I wanted to make this image, you click on it and go to a website, say, I could click on this little link icon. Let's go to, we'll go to rsu19.org, for example. So that link now, if somebody clicks on that, they'll go to that website with this image here. Okay, that's pretty good. We did text boxes, imaging, embedding. So embedding are going to be things, if you have other sites you're using, let's say you have a quiz or like a YouTube video you want to embed or other things you want to embed, you can copy text and paste it into that and it will embed it inside of it. I will show you an example, but then I'll show you another way to do it. So all the Google stuff like Google Docs, Slides, all that stuff is already built into here. So you don't have to worry about the embed code. But if you're using a third-party thing, like we talked about last week or maybe the week before, some of the other kind of third-party programs like, you know, Google Earth Video or Tour Builder. Well, there's an embed code in Tour Builder. Well, you'd copy that text and you'd paste it inside of here. I'll just show you what this looks like. So here's my URL, or here's the embed code, and it's HTML. So if it looks kind of weird. Now, if I want to see what embed code looks like, I'll just go to YouTube real quickly to show you. Actually, we'll pull up one of our YouTube videos from this week. So we'll do one from yesterday. Oops. So here's a YouTube video. Now, again, YouTube is one of the things that you don't have to embed it because you can just link it directly. But if I was going to, I would come to a YouTube video, click on share, and you'll notice here one of the first choices is embed. And embed just means like it sounds like it's going to put that inside of the site. So here's a bunch of text. Don't care what it looks like. I don't even have to worry about it. If I just click in here, I'm just going to copy that entire block of text. YouTube specifically does have one other cool feature. If I wanted it to start at a certain time, let's say it's a half an hour long video and I only want to start it at you know, minute 7 or something like that, I can actually adjust that ahead of time and it'll put it in there. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to copy this entire text. Copy, good. Go back to my site here. Click on my embed code. Click on embed, and I could paste that in here and click next. There's my video. I can insert that. And here it is. Now, notice right here, looks like it cut it off here. But again, I can adjust this to match whatever I want. This little box around it, I can pull it up, pull it down, kind of adjust it around it. So this video now is embedded on my site. So if somebody goes to it, they can just click play, watch it right there. Okay? And again, it's kind of pushing down underneath it. All right. So let's get to Drive. Drive is where we're going to do probably most of the stuff that we're going to look for. And so if I click on Drive, these are things that you can edit view. So what I mean by that is if you're editing a Google form, for example, you're not going to embed the edit mode where other people can edit. You're going to embed the public version. Whoop, something looked like it crashed. Let's reload that, see what happened. All right, so while that's loading here, I'm just going to pull out, and this is one of the recommendations that I have, is in Google Drive, I actually create a new folder called site or something like that, website or whatever. So all the stuff that I know I want to put on that's going to be public that people can see, I put it in one Google Drive folder. That way I know, oh yeah, that's something I can drive in there, I can drag in there, don't have to worry about it. If you want it to be public, if you know you're going to want this Google Doc to be public, and I don't mean to edit it, I mean to just see it, I can take this folder right here, I can share it, and I can make this entire folder, everything inside of it, change from private to be public. And again, that doesn't mean edit mode, that only means view mode. And the reason why I do that, why that's handy, is that means now that any document I add to this folder, I just drag it in here, it's automatically public. I don't have to go through each one of them because it's in that public folder. Also, if I also know that if it's in that folder, I know that I'm going to make it public, or I could make it public. I kind of know that in my head. So I don't put anything in this folder that I don't want, to be public. Again, not edit mode, just viewing only. So that's handy that way. Let's see if my site loaded again. Again, I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll try it one more time. So we'll go back to our site. We're going to try to go to Drive again, see if it loads this time. Here we go. Okay, so in my Google Drive, what do I want to embed? Do I want to embed a folder? Do I want to embed a single document? Do I want to embed a form? All these different things are options. I'm going to go to, in this case, I'm going to go to my recents, just because I know I just looked at these. You can search for them. You can do all kinds of different stuff. Here is that Google slideshow I just made, the one we just pulled up and called Mr. Kelly's site. Not very exciting, but it's got one slide in it, but here it is. I can click on that slideshow. I can insert it. Here's the slide again. It's only one slide. It's not super exciting. But when we publish this, students would be able to click next, next, next. So if you had a 3 or 5 or 10 slide slideshow, they can be embedded and they can click next, next, next. And again, because this is public, this is designed to be public, mom and dad can look at it too. So if you're trying to provide information for the students that you really want mom and dad to be able to see too really easily, you could drag that right into your site and have that there. I'll show you some of the settings you can have in here. If I click on the settings right here, do you want that slideshow to auto start? Again, maybe. If you're doing, let's say you're doing a photo gallery, you have pictures from your classroom that you think are cool to share, you might want to use that slideshow just as a photo album that just kind of slides through like a gallery, basically. So you could have it auto start. Does it loop automatically? So when it gets to the last image, does it start over again? Do you delay time? So let's say you are doing that. I'll turn these on. How long is each picture? How long is each image? 5 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever. And do you want to start at slide number 1? So again, I'm not going to use this as a slideshow, like where I put images, but if I could, if I wanted to, and I can embed it right here. And like all the other ones, I can move it around. I can move it up beside it, or down, or so forth, make it bigger, smaller, all that kind of thing. Okay, so there's my slideshow. Other Google Drive options here. Let me go back to recent. All right, I wanted to add, I don't see it here, but I'm going to add it right there. There's my quiz. So this is the quiz that we did the other day. So I believe this was Tuesday. We did Google Forms. We turned about making them into quizzes. Let's say I want to embed that quiz right onto my Google site. Okay, I'm going to do that. The only difference is I'm not going to do it on the front page. And the reason why is I want to be able to link to it. Maybe I want another page that all my quizzes are, so I don't have them, all over the place. Right now, this page is pretty clunky. It's kind of like a lot of stuff kind of just floating here, but I want to be a little bit more organized. I can show you what it would look like from the viewer's perspective. So right now, here's my site. I'm going to publish this up in the upper right here, this little publish link right here. Click on that. Okay. What are you going to call it? Again, you want to be mindful of this right here, because once you name it something, that's pretty much what it's going to be named. It's really non-trivial to go back and try to re-edit it and rename it. So Mr. Kelly's site is fine for right now. This is kind of a throwaway one, so this is fine for what we're just playing with right here. But you want to think about that. If you want it to be, Mrs. Smith's site, that's fine. But just don't plan on, say, next year changing that again. So maybe you want to name it something else. Again, that's up to you. All right, I'm going to publish this. Okay, so I've just clicked publish. Now, what does it look like? Well, if I click on this little triangle that appears now, I can view published site to see what it looks like to everybody else. Click that. Okay, and this is what it looks like right now. So somebody went to this site. Here's the title. Here's welcome to my site. Cool. Notice that this image now, remember we talked about before, we changed that to a link. So if they click on that, it's going to go to another website because we added that as a link. Here's that video that we embedded. Again, I can play it right here. I'm not going to do it right now, but I can play that right embedded in. Here's my slideshow. If I have multiple slides, students can click next, 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 and see them all right here. So this is my site. Again, not super interesting, but it's kind of good to see, oh yeah, that's what they're going to view. All right. If I want to see my site, let me show you one other view here. So this icon right here, it's preview. It's to see it published, but it has one other cool feature built into it. So if I click on that, yes, I can see it. This is what it looks like from a laptop view or a desktop view, meaning if you had a wide screen, a horizontal screen, this is what it looks like. Here's what it looks like from tablet mode. Now, notice how it's squeezed down a little bit, and it gave you these sidebars. Okay, so I can still see everything. It looks okay. Okay, here's what it looks like from a phone view. Now, again, phones are going to be narrower, right? So I can see that it kind of pushes it. So here's the icon on top. It pushed the text underneath it. You want to be able to have all these different variations because you don't know what type of device mom or dad are looking at it on. They might be looking at a phone or a tablet or who knows what, right? So that's important. And so the other thing you notice here too, this embed code, because it's a phone view now, we actually have these little bars in here. So we want to play with that. Maybe we don't want to do that depending on what our needs are. All right. So we've done some different drive things. I want to add a new page, a totally new page. So we have multiple pages in this site. So up here, click on pages. Right now, all we have is the home page, which is what we're looking at right now. I'm going to click the little plus right here for a new page, and we'll call this one quizzes. Okay, so you notice up at the top here, I have a new page called quizzes. Here's my home page, back to the first one. Here's the quizzes page. You can add them up here if you want. If you want to have a navigation across the top, little tabs that appear, that works. If you don't want that, on this little gear on the left side, I can change that to say, I don't want it across the top. I actually want them down the side. So you notice, I don't know if you saw the switch over here, but now if I click on the side, over on this side, there's these little 3 lines, and now that's where my navigation is. Again, that's purely up to you. It's cosmetic. It's the same information, just 2 different places. It's whatever you like the looks of better. I guess my rule of thumb I would use is if I only had a couple links up here, like probably 3 or maybe 4, I might use the top one. If I had more than that, if I had a handful more than 3 or 4 links at the top or pages, I probably would do them down the side because it could get too much. You can imagine if I had 4 pages or 5 pages or 6 pages across here, it would just be too many. It wouldn't work. It would just be too long. All right, so here's my quizzes. You can change. I'm going to change this one to a title only. So I can change the header of this page if I want to, that doesn't match the other one. By default, it copied it, but if I want to change it to a separate one, I can do that. Over on the right side here, see where it says quizzes. If I click on the 3 dots here, do I want to make that the home page? Again, I'm not going to, but I could change if I want to. Do I want to duplicate it? So maybe I make a good page and I want to keep copying it. Do I want to add a sub page? You know, a sub page, just like it sounds like, it's going to be like a sub page underneath that page itself. The benefit of that is navigation. If you get a lot of pages that get really complicated, you can have almost like an outline, different pages that are sub pages to each other. Do I hide from navigation? And all that means is you still have the page. It doesn't delete it, but it just doesn't show up here at the top. If you don't want that link to be there. Again, that's a preference if you want to. But what I want to do here now is I want to embed that Google form that we created the other day, that quiz, on this page. So if students went to it, they could see the form and they could fill it out right there. They wouldn't have to go to a link to something else. So I'm on the page right now. I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Drive. I'll do a recent here because it just had it up a second ago. I believe it's right here. There's that blank quiz. This is one we made the other day. Click Insert. And here it is. Oh, this is funny. Because I've already responded to this one, it's coming up as responded. So I'm actually going to jump back to my quiz. I want to be able to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to turn off single respondings. I don't know if you remember, but we actually, right here, we restricted it to 1 person per response. So I'm going to turn that off and save it. And we'll refresh it. So that way I should be able to go back to my site and probably refresh this page. And I should be able to add, fill it in again, hopefully. Yep, there we go. So a couple things to know about this quiz. It's embedded, okay? So they don't have to go to another link. It's right here. We turned it on so it would automatically collect their email address. Again, that's probably good. If you're doing it for students, I would recommend doing that because you don't have to have them type in their name, or if they mistype it, or if they type somebody else's name or whatever. You don't have to worry about that. It just collects their email address automatically. Another couple tips. If I click on this once, you'll see that the dots on the side appear. I'm going to make this be full screen. That means I'm going to drag it all the way as wide as it can be. So that way, you know, I mean, you can make it narrower, but why not use the entire real estate? The other thing that happens is, depending on how long your quiz is, if I make this shorter, so if I'm going to pull this up, what will happen is I will actually have a scroll bar inside of a scroll bar. Let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to publish this. When I click publish, it's going to show me my draft and what it's going to look like once it's published, kind of like the before and after. So click publish. So I publish this publicly now. I'm going to go look at this page. So click on the dot, the triangle over the upper right, view publish site. This is what it looks like. So here's something that's problematic. And if you can, you want to stay away from this. Notice that I have a scroll bar on the far right of the entire page, but I also have like a little embedded scroll bar inside of the page itself for that quiz. I think that's confusing for kids. I find it confusing. So what I recommend doing is making sure that if you do have a Google form, that you just make sure that you pull down the bottom here as far as it can go so that you don't have to have a scroll bar embedded inside of a scroll bar. I'm going to pull it down all the way down. I think I got it far. Whoops, a little bit further. There he goes. Basically, you pull it down to the submit. Once you see the submit button, you should be okay. So now that this page is as long as it needs to be for that quiz. Okay, so I don't have to worry about a bar inside of it. Now I'm going to publish it again, basically republish it. It's going to show me the before and after. This is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like after. Cool. We'll click publish. And now it should be all set. Okay. Once students fill that out, let me go show what it looks like when they fill that out. Click on the little dot there, view published site. Here it is. So they can put their information here. If they were taking this I'm not going to even worry about doing the answers, but if they filled this out, when they click submit, it's going to appear up at the top here, right here, and it will tell them what, their response was submitted or whatever you said to be there. Okay. Cool. That's embedding a form. One thing I might do in this situation, because it's a lot of white here, I actually might change the background to that darker gray. And the only reason why I did that, and again, all I did is I put my cursor over the right side of that little palette there and changed the emphasis to like a little darker so they can see the questions a little bit easier. You notice here how they kind of stick out more. Again, that's just a cosmetic thing, but I like the looks of that a little bit better than the other one. That makes more sense to me. Let's republish that. Publish. All right. Let me go back to the home page. So we have our home page. We have a quiz page. Cool. We have an embedded, YouTube video. We've embedded Google Slides. Over on the right side, we've done all these. If I scroll down a little bit, here are some other options. Collapsible text, just like it sounds like. Let's say you want to have a paragraph or a lot of text, but you don't want to have it appear there the whole time. You could have a little text here. Let me just throw this in here. So I can say, whatever I want for the title, and then inside of it, I can have all kinds of text in here. And just like it sounds like, this will collapse. So if they see this, they'll actually have to click that little pull down to see the entire text. It's just a handy way of having a bunch of text that you don't have to look at every time, but you can pull it up if you need to. So that's kind of handy. You can also make these links if you needed to. So let's say you wanted a subset of links, but you want them to appear afterward. That's an easy way to do that. Table of contents, again, just like it sounds like, it will kind of help you at the top, put a table of contents. I probably wouldn't bother with that unless you have a lot of pages. If you have a substantial number of pages, we're talking dozens, then I'd probably throw that in there. But if you have under a dozen or so pages, I probably wouldn't even worry about it because you'll be able to manage that up at the top here. Image carousel, just like it sounds like, you can upload images and have them, scroll through, which works fine. My recommendation, however, is if you only want to have a handful of images and that's all you're going to use from that point on, image carousel works great. Meaning if you have the same 7 or 8 or 10 images throughout the year, cool. If you want to quickly and easily update images and take some away and go back and forth, I would actually recommend using a Google Slideshow because it's just easier to throw an image in that. You don't have to sign into sites to do that. You have a Google Slide, either remove an image or add a new one or whatever. It will automatically update right in your slide because you're just using it to rotate through. So it's just an easier way of doing that. Buttons, dividers, again, these are cosmetic things. If I click divider here, it's just a line that goes across. Again, it's just if you want to separate the looks. YouTube, I mentioned earlier, so I don't have to go get the embed code. I could click on YouTube right here, and it would work basically the same way. If I went and search for a video, I could pull that in and add it, and it would work very similar. Google Calendar, okay. This is why this one's important. In your Google Classroom, by default, it creates a calendar. We've covered that before. It just is there. It's part of the classroom. If you want that calendar with your assignments automatically already dated and date stamped, then once you go create it in Google Classroom, create an assignment, you put a date to it, it automatically puts that assignment in Google Calendar. And in Google Calendar, you could have that embedded right here in your site. So mom and dad could go. They don't need to sign into anything. They could go to your website. They could see an embedded Google Calendar and see, oh, you've got a test on Friday. Oh, you get this thing on Thursday, whatever. And all you had to do initially as a teacher is set it up. Once it's set up, you don't have to worry about it again. 2 notes about that. That's one of the benefits of sites rather than, say, Google Slides as a website, because you can embed things like that. You can't do that in Slide. You can't embed a Google Calendar that's active, that's live. You could put a link to it for sure. So if you say, click here for my calendar, but you can't embed it live right in your site. The other thing that's just worth noting is you can add from Google Classroom, add an assignment with a date, and it will go into Google Calendar. You can't go the other way. I can't go to Google Calendar, add an assignment, and have it appear in Classroom. It's kind of a one-way street. All right, maps, just like it sounds like. If you have a Google map you want to add and have it embedded right there, cool. Google Docs, again, just like it sounds like. Slides, sheets, forms, charts, all these things are from Google Drive, and again, pretty easy to link and add to. So the last couple things we're going to share about sites, that's pretty much, we did cover the most of it, or almost all of it. Whoops. If I click up here in the gear, some of the other settings here, that you can see. So we talked about navigation, brand images. Again, if you have a logo. So for example, if we wanted every website that is in our district's staff, our teachers are creating, we want to have like a logo up there, like RSU 19 or something like that, that appears on all of them, we could do that. Again, that's an option. Favicon, just so you know what that is, every website you go to, in the upper left, up by the address, they have a little icon that looks like an image, like a little, drawing image. You can add your own version of that if you want to add a custom one. Viewer tools. Again, anchor links, these type of things, like if you want to allow them to be able to see last time it was updated and have a contact form. Again, personal preference. I wouldn't worry about that stuff unless you need to go change it. Analytics. So this is cool. So one of the questions that got asked me by a couple teachers at Dixmont was, how do I track which people have been to my website or to see who's been viewing it? You can see with this, you can see the numbers. You can say, oh, I've got 100 views or 5 million views or whatever it is, but you can't actually track who they are. To do that, they would have to sign in, which is what the students would do. So students could sign in and say, oh, I'm here. Maybe they do attendance, that kind of thing. But you wouldn't track who the people are, who the parents are, or the viewers to your website. You can only see how many are there if you wanted to do that. And this is also a new thing that's relatively new they added, which was an announcement banner. That's like a banner across the top. If you want to have text appear there, or just change or whatever it is, it will appear up at the very, very top. And again, I wouldn't use that all the time. I would kind of turn it on or off as you need it because of what it's for. It's for an announcement. But if you have it on all the time, people kind of ignore it after a while. All right, one other thing here, I can share this just like everything else in Google. If I want to share this to other individuals to be able to edit it, or just share it with my students or share it publicly again. Right now, this is published for anybody at RSU 19. I can change that right here. I'm going to say that anybody in the world can find this and view the published version. If I click save, done. That means that if I go to the published site here, I'll show you what that looks like right here. And if I gave that link to somebody, they could click on it and they would pull up this website we're looking at right now. They'd be able to look at it, and again, they can't change anything, but they can see it and look at it and whatever you want to have on there. So it's kind of a newer, better version if you want to have like a public face to your classroom. Again, it's not Google Classroom, it's a closed version. It's like the public piece of it. And what I would recommend ultimately is you're going to want to set it up so it's not more work. It would be basically pulling information from what you're already doing and just feeding that. So you don't have to go to two places, you would only go to one, and it would feed that information to it. And I think that's pretty much it for Google Sites. I am going to check, see if we have any questions that popped up. I know we had a bunch of good ones yesterday. Looks pretty good. All right, stop presenting. So with that, as I mentioned before, we will not have an episode on Friday. Tomorrow we will be doing the weekend. Monday is a long weekend, it's Memorial Day, so we'll be starting again on Tuesday. We're going to visit what it means to transfer data and why that's so important right now, even more so than for us as educators, is our students, especially our seniors. The process of transferring from in a domain, which is their school account, to their own personal Gmail account. There'll be pieces of this that you're going to want to know too. If you have certain data in your school account or even in your personal account that you want to share from one account to another, we'll cover that, what that looks like, what the process is, how do you download, how do you upload, how do you transfer things. It's not hard, it's just a little bit... Question from Nate, do we know if we're keeping our staff laptops over the summer? I don't know 100%, but I would be, my 99% guess would be that yes, the answer is yes. But I will double check with that for sure. Actually, I'll double check with that so that we'll know for Tuesday. But I know at the same time, I know even students were talking about, what that process will look like. Are they going to be able to sign out the devices this summer? Do we need to see them ahead of time? That kind of stuff. That stuff is getting figured out right now, but I would be surprised if staff is not allowed to keep their devices over summer. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It was great seeing you. We will see you again Tuesday. Have a fantastic weekend and get a chance to go play with Google Sites. Bye.